Holy crap. We only have 4 classes left.
I know. It's freaking me out.
This semester has flown by.
I know.
Wow.
I was kind of glad that last week I was stuck in my room because it gave me a lot of time to just.
Wow. All right. All right, according to my list, I know, Caden, that you're not on the list, but I will fit you in there. Jack, it looks like you're up first.
All right, let's just start with number 1.
All right, go for it.
So I think these are like true false questions, I believe. So utilitarians' distinguishing belief is that they should pursue the greatest good for the greatest number, and that is true.
Okay, so when they say that they should pursue the greatest good for the greatest number, does the individual themselves count into that calculation?
Yeah, I think so.
Does he get more weight?
Well, so one of the things that I was thinking about with what we were reading is that it was kind of weird to me that they were saying, we were talking about the consequentialist utilitarianism, and the book started to talk about utilitarianism as something that makes the most people happy. And I kind of thought that that was weird because all along I've believed that it's like it's doing the most good as opposed to making people the most happy. And so, sorry, I can't really remember how I was tying this into what you asked me, but I guess, does it give more weight? I would say it does, but it kind of depends on the person who's making the decision. Because, you know, you really need to consider how it's going to impact everybody for the greater good and not just who's going to make people happy instantly.
Okay, and so that definition of greater good versus short-time happiness, that is one of the major questions about the value of utilitarianism as a ethical model. If my goal is simply making people happy, we have to define what happiness is. For example, if I give my kids Twinkies and cupcakes for dessert, for dinner, their short-term happiness level is going to be quite high. Their long-term diabetic outlook is probably going to be pretty poor, right? So as an adult, I have to be able to temper my desire to make them happy with my long-term concern for them. The reason I ask the question, is the individual making the decision supposed to include themselves as part of the equation? Why do we ask that question? Why does it matter if we involve ourselves or include ourselves in the decision?
I think that it can kind of help keep you impartial, I guess, to know that you're including yourself in it and you're not just making decisions for other people.
Okay, most of the philosophers that argued utilitarianism would actually argue the exact opposite of that. That we should not factor in our own personal preference when making a utilitarian decision. Why might that be the case?
No, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, so I guess that way it would keep you, because that would make you impartial. If you were like, well, this is going to be good for me, so I say it's good for everybody. I can understand that, but I also kind of think you need to recognize that you're a part of, well, it depends on the decision, but you could be a part of the group that you're trying to make a decision about.
That is very true, but the primary reason I bring that up is because their greatest concern is self-interest unbalancing the decision. The fact that this might be bad for me, overwhelming my concern or the overall calculation is such that they were quite concerned and said, you should not be involved in this, or you should make decisions that try to objectify this rather than relying on your own personal emotions, because that would be likely to warp our ability to think.
Okay, I guess that makes sense.
All right. Tell, it sounds like your mic's on.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's see, Kyle, looks like you're up.
Well, I don't know how to get it off there. Good grief.
There you go. All right. So Kyle, are you with us today? Let's see if I've got an email. Okay, so no Kyle, or we'll come back to him. So Logan, are you with us?
Yes, Logan? Let's do number 9. Has that one been done?
Nope. Okay, number 9. Okay.
Let's see, so I think like consequences are more worried about like outcome of actions.
Yep.
And like central ethical concerns are like outcome of what should I want, instead of like the idea of like utilitarian and then altruist and egoist. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly.
Okay, so is statement number 9 true or false?
I would say it's true.
Okay. Because?
Let's see, 1 sec. Gotta get back to the question.
Not a problem.
All right, so if in order to like find a correct answer, you have to determine the consequences of like one side, so outweigh the consequences. So that's why I think it would be true.
Yeah, utility is completely focused on looking at all the possible solutions, which solution is most likely to have the best possible outcome for the best number of people, or the largest number of people. It's all about outcome. It's not about who I am or what I do. It's all about how it affects other people. Okay, I should not be a part of it, just because that then kind of skews things. I'm solely focused on which outcome is going to help the most people. Okay? All right, Jax, oh, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good. I'm done.
All right, Jackson, are you with us? Jackson, going once. Jackson, going twice. All right, Kaysen.
All right. Can we do 18?
Number 18. We can. All right, go for it.
All right. So which of the following statements holds true for the concept of monetized utilitarianism? I would say it is C,
Okay.
converting happiness and sadness to monetary values, because the trick for utilitarianism is determining happiness for everyone, right? Because everyone has different values and different priorities, which is kind of what money already takes into account in our current society of determining the value of time, labor, materials, those sorts of things.
Hey, this explains why teachers get paid so little and why sports athletes get paid so much. Nobody enjoys sitting in class. Everybody loves watching sports, right? So the relative happiness brought about by teachers is low, therefore they're paid low. Athletes bring a lot of happiness, therefore they get paid accordingly. So why the focus on money?
Flexibility.
Flexibility?
You can't really like measure happiness and sadness by itself. So like by making it like a monetary value, it makes it more of a measurable like unit. And money is something that most people understand the concept of. So like being straightforward, but like weighing sadness versus happiness is a little bit more vague and harder to do.
Okay. The other, I completely agree in that it moves us into that objective, quantifiable, measurable concept as opposed to happiness or sadness. Okay. But it also, money, especially in most modern societies, is equivalent to access or ability. The more money we have, the more choices or consequences we can entertain. When I have a large disposable income, meaning I've covered all of my bills, if I have a large disposable income, I have a wide variety of different choices that I can make. If I have a very small disposable income, meaning after I've paid all my bills, I have very little money left, my options are much smaller. So the idea of attaching money to utilitarianism, it basically allows us to discern how much action am I providing to people based on this choice. Okay, a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I talked about the Ford Motor Company and the Pinto example, where they went and looked at how much is it going to cost us in terms of injury or loss of life. It doesn't talk about the sadness if a family was to lose a family member. It doesn't talk about the pain and suffering of an injury. It simply talked about the cost. Here's how much a lawsuit would cost if somebody was involved in a serious accident. Here's how much money we would have to pay based on court costs if somebody was to die. That is a classic example of monetized utilitarianism, because they compared the sum of all of that money of what we would have to pay in court costs versus how much money would it cost for us to make this change. And because the court cost was less than the change cost, they went with the court cost. That's the danger of monetized utilitarianism, is it completely removes any emotion from the fact or from the consideration.
Isn't that the same?
All right.
Ford one that you were talking to us about? I remember at the beginning of the year, you were saying that there's this one car that had the gas tank right behind right in front of the bumper. And they were like, it would cost more to change all the models of the car to like fix the problem rather than to pay out for the lawsuits.
Yep. They figured out that putting a rubber casing around the gas tank that would insulate it from an accident would cost $7 per unit. And with the number of units they were producing, the amount of cost it would cost for all those units versus the amount of money they would have to pay in court costs, the $7 to fix it was more expensive than it would be to pay for court costs. Kind of scary. All right, Haley.
I'm going to do number 2.
Number 2, okay. Let's
The
see if I
idea,
can... Nope, it doesn't want to work with me today. All right.
so the idea of hedonistic utilitarianism can be traced back to Immanuel Kant. That is false. It dates back to the 1800s of Jeremy Bentham, who was from England. He had donated his body to a university and requested that it be put on display. Kant was from the 1700s, who was German, whose theory was not even close to Bentham's. His theory was the categorical imperative. So the rules didn't depend on any desire or end with Kant, where it did with Bentham.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, this idea of hedonistic, which tends to emphasize emotion, and so it's an emotional utilitarianism versus Kant, who was arguing this kind of more universal concept. All right, perfect. Okay, thank you, Haley. Josh.
I'd like to answer number
With us.
27.
Number 27. Oh, now it's working for me. Okay. All right, go for it.
It would be A, egoism, because he's doing in self-interest instead of any other reason.
Okay, yeah, he's doing this because he has the ability to receive personal benefit by doing what it is that he wants. Okay, the primary concept is he has captured the market and is able to make a lot of money simply by pursuing his own self-interest. Anytime we are simply pursuing our own best interest, even if that benefits everybody else, it's still defined as egoism. Okay, does that mean that egoism is wrong?
No.
Not necessarily. Okay, but we have to acknowledge our own self-interest and how that's being satisfied by our decisions. How could that be a good thing? How could egoism be a good thing? What do you think, Josh?
I would say, for example, in a workplace environment, my self-interest is to get a college degree and get my certs. In the end, that benefits the company because I'm further improving myself.
Perfect. Yeah. I have a personal motivation to do this that as a result of me following my own personal interest, the company benefits. That's a win-win situation. Okay?
Just from like a health standpoint, it's important to to do things for ourselves, even if it's not like the only thing we do, which is probably we only do things for ourselves anyway. But it's important to understand like when we're making decisions for ourselves and compared to when we're making decisions for others. Because if we only make decisions for other people and we don't recognize that we need to make decisions that benefit us, then we like push ourselves lower and lower while we try to make everyone higher. So there's just like a mental health issue with that as well.
Okay, so what we would call self-abnegation, which is self-denial, right? I give up myself for the sake of somebody else. There can be some aspects of that are quite ennobling. Okay. However, there are also things about egoism that can be ennobling, right? This is what I love to do. Everyone's probably heard the statement before, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Bull crap. But it makes it easier for you to deal with the shocks and struggles that come along with doing what you enjoy. But this gets us back into this concept of the golden mean, of every virtue or trait being done in moderation. An excess of egoism makes us self-focused. A lack of egoism results in us completely ignoring our own needs at the cost of being able to deliver that to other people. Okay, excellent. All right, Sam, you're up.
All right, I'll do number 49. Sticking with
Number
egoism.
49.
Is there a difference
hold on.
between?
Okay,
Is there a difference between egoism and selfishness? Explain. I would say yes. The difference would be the fact that if you're being selfish, you ignore those around you, whereas egoism, you acknowledge the people around you. But both still have your self-interest in mind.
okay. I would say that the difference between selfishness and egoism has to do with means and ends. Egoism suggests that my interest is the means by which I accomplish goals. But those goals can benefit other people. Selfishness argues that the self is the end, that everything I do should be done primarily or exclusively for my own interest. So somebody that is influenced by ego or an egoist, can they benefit other people?
Yeah.
Can they work for other people's interest?
Yes.
Yes. Okay? Whereas if I'm selfish, the only interest that I care about is myself. The egoist would say, if by helping myself I can help other people, it's a win-win situation. Whereas somebody who is selfish only looks at how does this benefit me? That's their only consideration. An egoist would say, what do I get out of it? But I can be concerned about the needs of others, as long as I can balance those. Why does this matter? Why are we even talking about this? Anybody? What does this have to do with the class?
Like this specific question?
Like number 49. Why does 49 matter? How does this connect to the subject of this class?
I would say
But we
Yes.
ought to.
Okay, I had Sam talking and then somebody else hopped on too, and I didn't catch who it was.
I think it was Patel.
Okay, Sam, you go first, and then I think Cattell, were you the other person?
Yes.
Okay, so Sam, you go, then Cattell, you're up.
I was just gonna say there's systems or ethical systems that really support the idea of egoism compared to selfishness. It would be harder to find ethical justification for it.
Okay, because again, ethics is what? What we define ethics as.
What we
What you
ought.
ought to do.
Yeah.
It's not what we ought to do, it's how we decide what to do, right? So morals tells us what we ought to do. Ethics is how do we make the decision that gets us there. So if that's the case, how does that connect back to this question of egoism versus selfishness? Cattell.
So selfishness is putting your interests before other people, and egoism is thinking of yourself or your self-interest. So they're kind of the same thing, but with selfishness, it's just thinking of yourself first, thinking of only yourself. And with egoism, it's what's going to be best for myself.
Okay, and so how does that connect back to ethics? Winter?
In ethics, it's like, so it's kind of like a societal, like how we ought to make decisions, like where it can benefit, like the progression of society almost. So if we're only focusing on ourselves, we're probably not going to be doing much for those around us or society as a whole.
Okay, so egoism and selfishness are ethical models. If you think about it, they control or set the rules for how I make choices, right? Now, selfishness, the rule is what is of most interest to me. So it is an ethical model. Is it a very helpful or healthy model? No, but it is a model. And we see people who, aware or unaware, are using it to make decisions. Egoism, finding ways that doing what I want to do benefits others. Again, is that an ethical model? Absolutely. It can probably have better outcomes than selfishness, but it still is very focused on personal benefit, which isn't necessarily always going to be beneficial to society. Okay, so for example, I know that there was this program that was assisting people in getting education for jobs. And this system said we have 250 positions open in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, HVAC. These are jobs, especially in this location, that would pay incredibly high salaries for relatively little educational effort. It was a very technical job, but it was a job where you would probably get hot, sweaty, and dirty every day, but you would make a very respectable living wage. And nobody accepted any of those positions because they all said, I want to go to law school. Because if I'm a lawyer, I get to wear a suit and tie every day. I get to go to an office. I get to get prestige, and I'm going to make a lot of money. Okay? That's what we're talking about here. They were more focused on their own interest than they were on long-term benefits.
So that would be more like a selfishness?
That would move more towards selfishness than egoism. Okay? Now, if I was to pick a job simply based on the amount of money that it provided, would that be selfish? What do you guys think? If I picked a job simply based on my projected earnings, would that be selfish?
I think it depends on the type of work you do. Like if you went into the medical field where you really need to focus on the health and for other people, compared to if you were just like a carpenter where you just kind of do your work and worry about yourself.
Okay? The argument I would make is that if I'm making a decision based on the most money, that's probably going to be an egoist. If all I do is I take studies based on what I want to do, and so I specialize on Sanskrit theater from the 2000 BC, is that egoist or selfish? I don't care if I can do anything with it. I don't care how it's going to add to anybody else. It's just, this is what I want to do. That will move more into selfishness. Okay. Is everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Billy, are you with us?
I am. Can I do number 10?
Number 10. All right, go for it.
Okay, so ethical egoism mirrors altruism. I think it's false. They don't really mirror each other. They're kind of opposites because altruism is putting your other people's interests above your own, and then egoism is the idea that you should act in your best interest. So I think they're just opposites, more or less.
Yeah, the fact of the focus of altruism is selfless benefit. It's looking at, does that mean that an altruist receives no benefit for their actions?
No.
No, I can still receive benefit. It's just that is not the motivation or justification for why I'm doing something. I'm doing it primarily because of the benefit it provides to others. So, for example, an altruist might be somebody like a social worker. I know I'm not going to get paid a lot. I'm going to get paid something, but my primary focus is on the help that I can give other people. Right? Doesn't mean that they're completely selfless. They do receive benefit. It's just that's not one of the factors that goes into the decision-making process. Okay? All right, Scott, are you with us? Scott going once. Scott going twice. All right, Caden. Oh. What we got here? Okay, Scott, do I need to come back in a second? Are you having a mic problem? Okay, perfect. All right, so Caden, are you with us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Let's see. I do number 24.
Number 24. Okay.
I said A.
All right, so a passenger has a briefcase which he finds difficult to hold while traveling in a crowded commuter train. Mark, who has a seat to himself, proposes that the passenger pass the briefcase to him so he can stand comfortably. Mark does this so that the next time he is in the position of the passenger, he would be helped in the same manner. So you're arguing that the above concept is the informal social contract.
Yes.
Okay, why?
Well, I don't know. It's just kind of like I do a favor for you, you do a favor for me kind of thing.
Does anybody sign a piece of paper that Mark can walk around saying, you owe me and I get to make you carry something for me next time? Does that happen in this?
It's not like a for sure thing. Like it's not going to happen. He's just kind of hoping. That's why it's informal, I guess.
Yep, it's a social contract, which just means natural interactions with people. It's like me holding the door open for somebody. The idea is that I'm making it easier for you to pass through into the building. There's no guarantee the next time I get to a door, someone's going to hold it open for me. But by doing so, I contribute to the overall well-being of society. Has anybody seen this? There's a thing going around. The best mechanism to test your level of ethical thinking is a shopping cart. And what do you do with a shopping cart? Meaning, you've used your shopping cart, been provided for you. When you're done using it and you put your groceries in the car, what do?
You return it.
What's that?
You return it.
Well, you should return it. Are you required to? No. Is there any penalty or cost to you if you don't?
No.
There is not a parking lot police who are going to come up and give you a ticket for not properly putting away your shopping cart. If I don't put a shopping cart away, does that mean I cannot use a shopping cart the next time I go to the store? No. But if I do, what happens? What are some of the benefits of putting your shopping cart away?
I mean, you make it easier for the workers to do their job because they're all in one spot.
It improves the efficiency of the business, which can lower cost.
The biggest
Okay.
thing is that you're not going to have a shopping cart get taken off by the wind and dent someone's car.
Exactly.
And
I'm
that was
preventing
maintained for like
general threat of
years.
property. What's that? I'm sorry, Jack, I didn't catch it.
No, I'm sorry. It's funny you brought this up because I've like maintained for years. I've said this 1,000 times that if I see somebody not put a shopping cart away, it tells me everything I need to know about that person.
Yeah. My biggest thing with putting shopping carts away is it guarantees that somebody can park there after I'm done. How many times have you gone to pull in someplace, especially when it's busy, and there's a shopping cart there, right? In Christmas, it's worth your life to get out of your car to move a shopping cart, right? But if I do that when it's empty and I'm still parked everything, it costs me very little. Does it cost me? Yes. It costs me time, it costs me effort, but those are examples of utilitarian sacrifice. What is best for the entire community? But the example that we've talked about here is an informal social contract. And I do agree with you, Jack. What somebody does with their shopping cart tells you everything you need to know about it.
I think I just said that like 2 days ago, so that's funny.
So it's still fresh. All right, Porter, are you with us? Porter, going once. Porter, going twice. All right, Anthony.
Who was it that was having problems with their mic again?
Scott?
Didn't he just talk?
I think Scott's up. I think your mic's up, right, Scott?
I think so.
Okay, yep, we can hear you. So, Anthony, are you gonna let him go first?
Yeah, he can go first.
Okay. Scott, go for it.
Can I do number 4? I believe it was. I was looking at. Yeah, number 4.
Number 4. Okay.
Selflessness does not necessarily imply acting in favor of the well-being of others. I would say that is true because when you're doing like something selfish, most of the time you're not thinking like, how is it going to affect the next person? Like the shopping cart. Like if you're just acting in yourself, like you're too lazy to walk it there, you're not thinking like, how is it going to affect the person who has to come and get the cart or find a place to park or make the business more efficient.
Okay, Scott, that is true, but the question asks selflessness, not selfishness. So let's take a look at that question again, understanding the word is selflessness. Would you still agree with that statement if I was to say selflessness does not necessarily imply acting in favor of the well-being of others?
I would actually have to say it would be false then.
Okay, I am going to have to actually disagree with you. If we think about it, selflessness it can be true. Just because I'm being selfless doesn't mean I'm thinking about others. All it implies is what? Doesn't mean I'm thinking about other people and their well-being. What does it tell me? Selflessness means I am not thinking about who?
Yourself.
Myself. Okay, so selflessness does not, just because I'm not thinking about myself does not mean I am thinking about the well-being of others. I am simply not thinking about myself. Doesn't mean that I'm going to make a good decision for other people. I'm just not including myself in the discussion. Okay? All right. Anthony, I think we're back to you.
All right, sounds good. I am doing, I think it's number 42.
Number 42.
Oh, actually just 40, sorry.
Okay.
So it's individual plans to set up an organization to help old people living on the streets. He solicits funds from business houses to put this plan into operation. Donations pour in from different quarters. Now he diverts some of the money to invest in stock market for his own beliefs or for his own benefit. This is an example of, and I said A, cause egoism, because it looks like he is trying to help the cause, but in the end, he is just faking it. I mean, part of it is going towards the old people and getting them off the streets, but still some of it is going towards himself for his own gain.
Okay, I think that there should be a letter F, which is called fraud or embezzlement, which is the most accurate term for this description. If he is collecting donations for this cause, yet he takes some of that to benefit himself, that's called embezzlement. Okay, but from the options given here, cause egoism. I don't know that this is the great, I gotta be honest, I don't like the but part of this one, because I don't think this is a great example of cause egoism. I think an example of cause egoism is an individual plans to set up an organization to help old people living on the streets. He solicits funds from business houses to put this plan into operation. Donations pour in from different quarters. The individual spends much of their time and effort publicizing their own participation in this effort. They put a lot of time and effort into marketing that includes their likeness, their television appearance, their celebrity. That would be an example of cause egoism. The money is still going to the purpose, but I'm doing it so that I can be recognized for what I am doing. Okay, so I'm getting the celebrity attention because I'm doing this, but all of the proceeds and effort are still going to helping people who live on the street. So I have a little bit of a problem with people with this statement, just because this is illegal. This is not one of these items. It's something totally different. It's a crime. All right, but thank you. Okay, Andrew.
Can I do number 22?
Number 22. Let's see what we got here. Okay.
He was like basically saying, do you have
Go for it.
So, which of the following statements holds true for the concept of psychological egoism? And that would be E. It refers to the belief that we're all necessarily egoists. It's an inescapable part of what it means to be human.
Okay. So what does that suggest?
Basically, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what's the significance of statement E?
I would say mainly it's like inherent in our nature. It's like something that's unavoidable. So it's almost something you accept and maybe you take into account when you're making decisions with ethics.
Okay, so I think that a lot of times we put ourselves in this position where we look at individuals, for example, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa, or individuals who we see engaged in what appears to be selfless acts of service, that their entire life is devoted to nothing but service of other people. And we get this sense, man, if I'm not doing that, I'm a terrible, horrible person. But the truth is, it is pretty much a part of human nature that we cannot, or we very rarely forget ourselves completely. We do retain levels of at least psychological egoism. It is very difficult for us to completely forget ourselves in the benefit of other people. And that if we can accept that, it means that we don't have to beat ourselves up if we feel selfish, because egoism, like we said, even though I'm thinking about myself, it doesn't mean that I cannot benefit other people. Right? Steve Jobs was an egoist. He was a famous egoist. It was all about Steve Jobs. However, that drive, that personal level of expectation that he had for himself produced some world-changing technology. So, it just refers to the fact that we're all necessarily egoists. It's a part of the human condition, but that doesn't mean that we are bound by that or we cannot get outside of that to look at how our actions affect the consequences in other people's lives. Okay? All right, Tanner, are you with us?
I'm here.
Okay, what do you got?
Let's do number 44.
Number 44. Okay, go for it.
So the advantage of utilitarian ethics is that the majority of people are benefited.
Okay, that's one of the very first things. One of the biggest benefits of utilitarian ethics is that it prioritizes benefits to large numbers of people. Okay, are there any other benefits?
I'm sure there are. I can't think of any off the top of my head. That's just the biggest one that sticks out, is that the majority of people are benefited with the least amount of harm.
Okay, that's an excellent one. Can anybody add any others? Okay, utilitarianism is focused on the means or the ends. The end. Okay, so it tends to emphasize outcomes, consequences. And that can be helpful because it doesn't justify, well, I meant to do the right thing. All that matters is what is actually done. Okay? Any others? Anybody? Benefits of utilitarian ethics in business. Now, one of the goals, okay, so Tanner, one of the goals you mentioned, or the biggest goal is, my goal is to choose the outcome that has the biggest benefit to the biggest number of people.
Yes.
Okay, one of the other things about utilitarianism is that most models of utilitarianism tend to be objective. What does that mean?
It means there's not as much bias. It's like objective writing in English.
Yeah, I'm not basing this on emotions. I'm basing this on facts and figures. So for example, in a business setting, what is most likely, if I have to lose a couple of jobs to protect the overall productivity of the business, that means the most people will stay employed, will be unaffected by variations in the market. Now, I might be one of those people that gets laid off, but at least I know this wasn't because the boss didn't like me. Everything is done by numbers. It strips any possibility for prejudice or bias out of it. It's simply based on numbers, and it's blind to anything else. This can be really fair in some cases, although some would argue, especially Rawls, that fairness has other interpretations.
Would another advantage be that it encompasses like not only short-term but long-term effects?
Yes.
So it can, like, having utilitarian ethics in a business can be like, if your goal is success being the ends, then like you'll be more aimed toward like making decisions that lead toward that success rather than having like a justice approach.
Mm-hmm. My goal is as much to make sure that this business stays functional long-term, that I'm going to be making a lot of investments to promote it rather than all big profits now. I want to be here 50 years from now, still selling these products, kind of thing. The longevity, big deal. Yeah.
So I'm just doing some research while I'm here at work. It says like one of the theory is focused on the democratic process for forwarding movement. And so I think that's why it's more beneficial to a larger group of people because the majority rules.
Because, yeah, it's looked at what can be of benefit to the widest number of people, and it strips out, well, it doesn't look at normal factors of things like gender or race or things like that, which can really cause imbalances in the action. It's simply looking at net utility versus cost.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Megan, are you with us?
Yeah, can I do number 38?
Number 38. Okay, go for it.
It said, which of the following statements holds true for the concept of cause egoism? And I said A refers to it refers to giving a false appearance of being connected with the welfare in order to advance one's own interest.
Yeah, exactly. This is the situation where somebody is doing something and they're connecting themselves, for example, to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, but it's also that they can make personal connections with various celebrities and hang out with people at parties, even though they're still involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is trying to provide comfort and excitement for, especially for children with terminal diseases. Cause egoism is, I'm doing this for the celebrity or the benefit it brings me, even though I'm involved in helping other people. Okay, excellent. Okay, Zach, are you with us?
Yeah, I'll take number 50, 50.
Okay. Go for it.
So, the difference between a cause egoist from an enlightened egoist, a cause egoist, as Megan just mentioned, works from the idea of having the appearance of helping others is a promising way to advance my own interests, whereas enlightened egoism works from the idea that helping others is a good way of helping myself.
Okay, that I get, yeah, so a cause egoist is simply, I am attaching myself to a cause because of how it can benefit me, whereas an enlightened egoist is always looking for a win-win. How can I help you and how can you help me at the same time? So the idea of the enlightened egoist is that they're aware of their egoism and they're trying to align their egoism so that it benefits other people as much as they are benefited. So they are aware of the needs of others and they try to find ways to benefit others by doing their own self-interest. Can somebody give me an idea of what that might look like? Anybody? What might an enlightened egoistic action look like?
Wouldn't that be something like you're still looking out for your own interest, but it's also benefiting others?
Okay, but what's the difference between a cause egoist and an enlightened egoist?
I don't know.
Winter?
Would it be like volunteer work at like, say a food bank? You don't like go telling people about it, but you just like go and like on weekends or something and like everywhere this day and you go and you like help these people, but you also like receive the like emotional fulfillment from doing that. Like if that's the ends for you, then you're helping people, but you're also receiving like.
That's getting there. Okay, so a cause egoist is simply I'm involved. So the person who shows up at the food bank on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving because they know the local newspapers and television stations are going to be there so that they can be on TV. They're helping, but they're doing it primarily to be on TV. An enlightened egoist might be something where a business donates okay, well, I'm trying to think of how this happened. I want to say that it was after the Texas winter storms, that there were companies who said, we know that our employees have been harmed, so we are personally going to buy trucks, we are going to rent planes, and we are going to fly in goods for everybody in this community because our business is centered here. Okay? They're doing it to benefit their people, but they're also benefiting other people. They're not doing it just to get attention. They're doing it to help their own people, but they recognize they can help other people at the same time. So their interest aligns with public interest. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Winter.
I think I'm gonna do 21.
Number 21. Okay.
So it says, which of the following statements holds true for the concept of idealistic utilitarianism? I said A, it refers to the ethical belief that seeks to maximize sensations of happiness and pleasure connected with intellectual life and culture.
Okay, so all right. So the idea, yeah, so this is not hedonistic.
Yeah.
It's idealistic. It's this idea of intellectual life and culture, because the idea is that intellectual life and culture will aspire to higher or more enlightened levels of activity. Okay. Good. All right, Cattell.
I'm going to do number 20. Which of the following statements holds true for the concept of rural utilitarianism? And I picked B. It refers to the ethical belief that states that a rule for action is recommended if collective obedience to the rule increases net happiness when everyone is taken into account.
Okay.
An example would be like the rule such as like don't steal.
Okay. So I'm going to give you an example. So the idea of traffic or driving is that we want to promote efficiency and safety in every possible situation, right? The idea of the entire kind of underlying rule of driving is I want to drive in such a way so that I can be safe and I can get to where I'm going as fast as is possible in the circumstances. So we have something called the zipper rule. Does anybody know what the zipper rule is in driving?
No, never heard of it.
It is very clear.
Like zipping in and out of traffic.
Nope. The zipper rule.
When you merge.
It's
When you're
merging.
Oh, I never heard of that.
So this is a rule that is completely unknown in the state of Utah. Nobody knows this rule. But the idea of the zipper rule is practiced if you've ever gone to McDonald's in the last 5 years. They remodeled so that they have two ordering stations outside, correct? And so the idea is if two people in the lane are done, you let one go, then you go. Did somebody else go? You alternate. And so it works like a zipper. Or when you're coming into a merge, first car goes, the second car behind it slows down so the merge comes in, because that way you can go at a faster speed because you're able to interlink the two lanes of traffic efficiently. Okay, so that's the zipper rule. Why does the zipper rule not always work? Because there's always that idiot who decides that where I'm trying to get to is more important than where everybody else is. So I'm going to jump out of line and speed ahead of everybody else and not merge, or I'm going to block somebody else off from merging. So then both lanes get delayed. I'm getting flashbacks of this is where road rage comes from.
Yeah.
But the point of this is the idea that rule utilitarianism says that a rule of action is considered or recommended only to the degree that everybody agrees that that's how you should act in that situation. And that it's always, the zipper makes merging much easier, much faster, but it only works if everybody obeys it. All it takes is one person messing up the flow and it slows down everybody. Okay, we've all seen this, right? Okay.
I'm gonna see it this summer.
We're all gonna see it this summer. So, all right, so those are the questions for today. I've got two things that I want to do. Number one, we've got to do our random number. And then second, I would like to take a moment and ask if there are any questions. Yeah, that's how it's spelled. Are there any questions about the research paper? The ethical dilemma that you're working on that's due in 2 weeks? Okay, somebody's already turned theirs in. Okay, does anybody have any questions? Has anybody actually, other than Winter, has anybody else worked on it?
I've got my research paper. I was thinking it was due this week, but I'll take 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was originally set to be due this week, but we figured because of all of the other stuff that's going on, it's going to be due this Sunday before spring break.
So the 25th.
25th, yes.
Okay, sweet. So,
Okay, hold on a second.
so I
Keep going.
Mine is for land surveying related, and there's actually a code. There's a handbook on codes of ethics for professional engineers and surveyors. So how am I just giving my opinion on that and how I would use that, or?
Not necessarily. For this case, we're looking rather than relying on the specific code of ethics for surveyors, I would like you to come up with a situation where you would have to make a decision outside of that code. How would I choose what to do in this case?
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Simply using the code of ethics that you already have, that's why they have it. Is because it's supposed to tell you how to act in these situations. What we want to do is something outside of that.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Winter, you were saying?
So if anyone wants their paper reviewed, I submitted mine to the writing center, and they'll if you do the 48-hour, you don't have to do a meeting or anything. They'll just look at it and leave some comments for you. If you want to kind of tune it up as far as getting making sure it, I don't know, not the information in the paper, it's more the structure is all sound and.
Yeah, so if you're freaking out about APA and things like that, you can submit this online to the writing center and they will give you feedback. Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Random generator number 1 is number 4, Megan.
I think that's the wrong list.
What's that?
I think that's the wrong list.
Oh.
Yeah, I was number 15 this week.
All right, Jackson, who was not here. Okay, so instead we'll do number 14. That's Tanner.
Sweet.
Logan, who's here. And Ailey. At least it's not Kyle. Got close a couple of times. All right. Anything else anybody wants to bring up before we're done for today? So just as a reminder, we have 3 more class sessions, which is freaky. This semester has gone by way too fast. Second, just as a reminder, if you are short on your ethical dilemma statements, I will accept emailed copies of any missing assignments between now and the 25th. The 25th is the hard deadline. I will not accept anything after that. As far as I can tell, your grades are up to date. I've gone back in, I got the ethical dilemma for last week, and I also got the Muslims being fired dilemma as well. So as far as I can tell, everything has been graded unless you're missing something. If you are, let me know. Otherwise, the grade in Moodle is where you currently stand. That should be a hint to some of you. Otherwise, that's everything I've got, folks, and we will see you on Thursday.
Thanks.